This week we begin by looking at comping takes. I'm going to show you a bit of a historical perspective here. We're going to go from the very old school methods of comping takes up to and including the most current versions of comping takes, which have been re-optimized yet again by Avid for multi-channel takes. So drum kit performances, that sort of thing. I'm just going to play a few bars so you can get a sense of the session. Okay, and I've got it set for loop playback. So you probably noticed that there's nothing in there in the first two bars on that MIDI drums clip. So what you don't see right now is there are actually other takes. Now, it's not quite the same thing as playlists. For playlists, you'd obviously want to click on this disclosure, and you would expect that you might see some more playlists. But these are actually in the form of what are called takes. This is something that was loop recorded using takes. So if and again, I've got my selector tool here. If I were to command click, you would get this dialog that says alternates match criteria. So as soon as I select another one of these, like MIDI drums 2 here, now we've got a different performance. And if I command click, then I got 3, 4, and so on. Okay, so it's going to work a little bit better for me to show this to you using an audio version of what you're hearing with the MIDI. So I'm actually going to bus to an audio track, and there's a few preferences that I want to make you aware of also. These are not mentioned in the Frank Cook video that I'm going to ask you to watch from the LinkedIn Learning, but it's really important that you guys realize that we have these preferences. So Pro Tools, preferences, and specifically dealing with this, we've got separate clip operates on all related takes. That's a really important one. And I'll show you why in a few minutes here. So you generally, when you're doing this kind of work, you want to make sure that that is turned on. And then you also want to make sure under operation that automatically create new playlists when loop recording is also enabled. And you'll see why in a few minutes there also. Okay, so let me go ahead and say that's what I want. Those are some good settings. And now we're just going to create a stereo audio track. And let's go ahead and name this MIDI drums audio. And then we need to send this out. I'm just going to use bus 1, 2, and my input here will be bus 1, 2. I'm going to use input monitoring on this MIDI drums audio track, which means that we'll be able to hear what's playing or passing through from the MIDI drums through the MIDI drums audio as it's printed. Okay, without that turned on, we wouldn't be able to hear it. So input monitoring is enabled, and we're going to record enable also here. And so you can see that I've got this little loop defined here. What I'm going to be doing is manual. Actually, I'm going to be command clicking on this little clip here every time the cycle repeats so that we get essentially several alternate takes to choose from. And we will be getting playlists because we enabled that preference. Okay. And I'll be able to sort of chop up what we get as a result here in the audio track because of that separate command that I showed you just a minute ago here. Excuse me, the preference separate clip operates on all related takes. All right, so let's begin here. I don't need any pre-roll. I'm just going to hit 3. Obviously, our first pass here is going to just be dead space in that track. Switching to 2. Switching to 3. Switching to 4. Switching to 5. Got that one a little late, 7. Okay, and I just hit the space bar to stop. So now what I've got here, and actually I'm just going to go ahead and make this inactive at the top here, and I guess we're grouped, aren't we? So let's make this active. Okay. So what we have here now is we've got multiple playlists. So you can see that from here. You can also see it from right here under playlists, and this is what we're going to get when we get into the sort of new school that I was talking about. You'll get these cool colored lanes. And again, I'm actually going to leave this for a little bit later. Essentially what we're going to be doing, you might remember this from last semester, at one point we were using Cena, I believe was the track, and we were promoting certain parts of one playlist up to the other. But again, that's very recent in Pro Tools. So let's go back to waveform, and I'm going to show you the old school method of what we're talking about here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually chop this up because I want to select the best parts from what we were listening to just a moment ago. I'm going to get out of grid mode here for a second, and I'm going to hit B, and I'm going to hit B here again, and what the heck, we'll do one right there. So we've now got 4 sort of segments here that we can pull from. So, excuse me, I can use my selector tool to do this, and you'll notice here that I've selected the first bit of a clip here, and I've got this alternates match criteria, and I believe that actually this is the first time I'd mentioned this to you. So what's important here is that the settings you would use 90% of the time would be track name and clip start and end. Okay, you can study up on all the others if you want. But 90% of the time, this kind of an application, it's going to be track name and clip start and end. This is what's been referred to as the matching start time takes list, or matching start time takes list, excuse me. This list right here, okay? Or we can just call them alternate takes. But let me show you what this does. So you can see here in the beginning, remember there was that first pass that was blank space essentially. So again, I'm holding command, and I'm going to go down to this business. So that was that part from the first take, that part from the second take, that part from the third take. Okay, so let's say that I like that one. And then this is a really good application, by the way, for looping. Okay, so that we can make those kind of determinations in real time. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and do that. Let's see what we like. So something else that I might do here is I might um, unlink my timeline and edit selection so that essentially I know that I want to loop um, this. Let's get in grid mode. I want to loop that, but I want to be working on this, for example. So you see what that let me do that I couldn't do just a minute ago. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy with that. That's fine, really. So hopefully the takeaway from this for you is these preferences. Okay, so in order to have sort of been able to chop along and cut a line that cleaves down all of the takes, the related takes, I had to check off this separate clip operates on all related takes. And then if I wanted the playlists, which again, I didn't really use those this time, but again, 9 times out of 10, when you're doing a loop record like this, it's a good idea to have that checked just so that when you do go to use that newer feature, it's actually going to work for you.